You say you're itching for a remake of Herschel Gordon Lewis's gore classic Blood Feast from the early 60s? Well, guess what? Synapse Films they've got the disc for you. From 2016, we have a remake of Herschel Gordon Lewis gore classic Blood Feast from the early 60s, and it stars Robert Rusler, who you may know from a lot of stuff in the 80s, including the second of the original Nightmare on Elm Street movies, Caroline Williams from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 in a pretty prominent role, Sophie Monk, Sadie Katz, and Herschel Gordon Lewis himself in a cameo. This is directed by, I believe, French director Marcel Walz, and maybe French, maybe German. Didn't do the research on that, I'm sorry. Features English SDH subtitles, and here we go. So the story here, it's not a straight remake of the original Blood Feast, vaguely, but not quite, which to me is the better way to do it. For me, remakes that are the exact same thing all over again are just like, in general, I feel like remakes are what's the point, but especially if it's the exact same thing, it's like, I've got the original and it's perfect. Why do I want to see? Anyway, so Robert Rusler stars as an American living in Paris, an American in Paris, if you will, who has brought his family to Paris, and he runs the American Diner or something like that. Yeah, it's the Ramsey's American Diner, as I slyly look at my notes over here. And it's just a regular American-style diner in France, and they're on hard times. He spent all his money to move to France and open this diner, and he's not doing well, and he's got a second job as a night watchman at a local French museum that has Egyptian artifacts in the basement. And we see him at some point he misses taking his meds for something. He's on meds for some reason. And we don't know for the rest of the film if what he's doing and experiencing is a hallucination or whether he's really being visited by the ancient goddess who wants him to have a blood feast. So basically where the story goes is he starts killing to appease this goddess because the goddess says, if you give me blood and you sacrifice people, you can be my destined lover once again. And again, are these visions or is he really being visited by the spirit of an ancient Egyptian goddess? We don't know. And it just gets gory after that. So it's this mix of Rusler kind of going into a trance and killing people brutally and not remembering it and his family thinking something's up. And it's kind of odd that it takes place. It's set in France and we see shots of like Caroline Williams walking around in France and the Eiffel Tower and all that stuff. But everybody speaks English, but that's okay, I guess. I mean, it's an English language movie, that's cool. But it just seemed odd that at no point does anybody speak with subtitles in this film. Everybody just speaks in French in English with a French accent. Just in my mind, it's like, well, why set it in France? It didn't really make sense to set it in France. I don't believe the whole film was actually shot in France either. So there is a moment in the film where Rusler is trying to figure out what's going on, and he goes to the library and he looks up all this Egyptology and he sees the name of the most preeminent Egyptologist and he looks him up on YouTube, and it's Herschel Gordon Lewis looking into the camera pretty late in his life and giving the lowdown, basically setting up the story of who this, I believe it's Isis. I want to say it's Isis, but I may be wrong. Saying whoever this god is, Ishtar, sorry. Not to be confused with the movie with Dustin Hoffman and Warren Beatty. He says who Ishtar is and what she was, and he's basically looking into the camera, telling the audience, what the deal is. So there's desaturated color throughout this, which always kind of bugs me, and a lot of handheld, which I don't really like. Not like offensively handheld like a lot of films are, but just always that kind of wavering, and I'm just like, what's the point of this? Maybe it's there to mirror Rusler's altered mental state as he gets more and more enraptured with Ishtar and more bloodthirsty. There is gore in the film. There is gruesome gore in the film. Very S&M kind of dungeon setup that Rusler has, where he brings his victims back and slowly dismantles them. There is it sort of feels like a mix of Saw and Hostel style applied to the original idea. And it's actually much more akin to a movie called Blood Diner that Jackie Kong made, which was basically a remake of Blood Feast. But instead of, Fuad Ramses being this guy who caters Egyptian feasts for your house, they just ran a diner where they did all this stuff. Blood Diner, a lot of fun, actually, if you've never seen it. So it's 100% more grim and dark and torture porny than the original was. The original was, very colorful and very well lit. This is very dark, very grim, very desaturated. As I said, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff on here, and it's interesting in those, and I'll get to that specifically, but it's interesting to see the behind the scenes footage or some of the raw footage where clearly it wasn't as dark and desaturated and deep blacks and not a lot of contrast going on as the feature film itself was. So that's one of those things where this is a 4K disc, but on my system, I don't know how much better, honestly, this would look than a Blu-ray or a DVD. Certainly than a DVD, it's sharper, and overall it should be sharper. But to me, the stuff that really soars on 4K are things that are colorful and really in good focus. And I don't know, I feel like much older movies fare way better on 4K than newer movies do, but that's just me. It's weird. This movie is kind of like simultaneously better and worse than the original. Like clearly, Blood Feast was not a very well made film, but it became this classic. And this one is like technically better made, but Rusler gives a really weird kind of stiff performance, and I kind of have to assume that that's him in the power of Ishtar, the way he's acting that way. But just the performances aren't that great. It's not that interesting. It's kind of dull overall when the kills aren't going on. It's not that long a movie either. I just kind of thought it was kind of tedious overall. I just don't feel like yeah. I didn't care for it. Let's just say that. People who love gore films might like it. People who are a fan of the original who want to see what's a modern take on this film look like, you've got that. It's been done. Apparently, Lewis did give the film his blessing. But the people who made it, when you look at the behind the scenes, seem to be really excited to be doing it and into it. I just didn't find it that entertaining a film. It's just, yeah, it was just kind of weird and very vignette-y, and it didn't. I know it's a film about a guy killing people to appease a Egyptian goddess that may or may not be real, but I didn't believe in the realism of this film. So the extras, we have the original Indiegogo promotional trailer that's a minute. It uses Bill Kerwin's original narration from the original Blood Feast trailer, which is a classic, but it's like in a squashed aspect ratio, which drives me crazy and doesn't make any sense and weird. And then it's got a lot of audio from the original with the coming soon. So it was a teaser to fund this film. You have the original theatrical trailer that's a minute and a half, which is a very fast cut, fades to black, constant fades to black kind of trailer template that I don't care for. You have the making of Blood Feast, which is 29 minutes, and that's where it's interesting to see the original shots and stuff on video. That's just a lot of set footage, some on-set interviews with the cast talking about their characters in the movie, and then just a lot of behind-the-scenes footage. You get Chili Con Curtis's Tonight music video that's 3.5 minutes. That's a rockabilly tune used in the soundtrack of this movie that looks like it was shot on the set of the film in that diner, either while they were making it or right afterwards. You get the red carpet premiere from 2018. That's 29 minutes of basically raw footage and B-roll from the premiere in Beverly Hills. A lot of red carpet interviews with the cast and the crew. You get Scare Cam. This is 6 minutes of footage, which is mostly the director sneaking up on people on between takes on the set and the cast and crew and saying boo and watching them, get scared. A lot of it's vertical video, which drives me crazy and doesn't really work on anything other than a phone that you're holding vertically. So watching this on your TV, suddenly you're just, looking at this much video. Some of it's amusing. If you like watching people do the scaredy dance, it's there. But in Caroline Williams, boy, she's got a vengeance there. You scare her and she will chase you out of the building and across the yard into the parking lot. That was kind of funny. But so what does it look like? So the packaging here, very nice. Synapse always does a really good job. So you've got the, it's kind of glossy, so glossy you can't see it. You've got the glossy slipcase, front and back. The slipcase, what does it do? Slips to reveal an alternate cover, front, and then you open it up and you've got the image on the disc of Rusler with some cup full of goo and the Synapse catalog, and it's one of those environmental discs. Oh, and so that it's got an alternate slip cover. So you've got, this is the standard cover there when you take it out, or you could reverse it and it'll look like the slipcase. So available now on Blu-ray from Synapse is the 2016 remake of the 1963 Herschel Gordon Lewis classic Blood Feast on 4K Blu-ray.